Some people, they have an idea, this vague idea. I have this great idea for story, and I want this to happen and that to happen. And we have to do this and that. And it's like, okay, we need to focus that into some kind of structure. So that's where the foundation for a novel comes in. Let's try to come up with a plan, a blueprint that you can work off of instead of having all these ideas which can lead you down a zillion rabbit holes.
We'll talk about this and much more today. Welcome to a Writer's Day podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to Writer's Day podcast. My name is Ruth Douthit, and I'm an award-winning best-selling author of books in various genres. And right now, book 3 in my Love and Romance in Italy series is available for pre-order. The Streets of Florence follows Millie and Edith and Joy, these 3 friends who originally met in Rome in my first book, The Doors of Rome, and now they are on an adventure through the streets of Florence, where they act as matchmakers for a young American waitress they bump into, and they find hope and restoration and love again on this journey. So if you love women's adventure fiction set in Italy, head over to Amazon and pre-order The Streets of Florence, which releases October 7th. And if you like today's episode, be sure to subscribe over at YouTube, follow me on Spotify and iHeartRadio, and wherever you listen to podcasts. And let me know what you think of today's episode. I think you're going to find it fascinating. And as always, head over to my website at artbyruth.com to sign up for my newsletter, where you can learn more about my upcoming projects. I still write suspense and fantasy. I have my next coloring book about dragons releasing this winter, along with a cozy murder mystery novella. So sign up for my newsletter and you'll be among the first to learn the title of my Christmas cozy mystery novella that releases soon. Okay, let's get busy. Kathy is a multi-published author of both contemporary and historical romance. She teaches workshops on the writing craft in person and at conferences. She is a book coach, and she's going to talk to us about that today. So you know the drill. Grab your favorite beverage, a comfortable chair, kick back and relax as we listen to Kathy Otten talk about her book coach services. Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm super excited to have book coach Kathy Otten with me today. Welcome, Kathy.
Hi, Ruth.
Why don't you tell my listeners a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into what you do for authors, a little bit about your books and such.
Okay, I started writing when I was a little kid. I would just come up with ideas and write down stories with a crayon and draw some pictures and tie it together with yarn. So I've always written. And when my kids were little, I started writing more and more in notebooks and stuff. But it wasn't until they got into high school that I started to seek out to do this professionally. So I started going to some workshops and stuff, and I joined Pen Writers, which is an organization for writers of all genres, and they helped me a lot. Honing my craft, learning about craft, and helping me get my first short stories and stuff published. So that was like in 2006. So I've pretty much been moving forward since then. I write primarily historical romance, but I've also written young adult, and I'm working on a sequel to that young adult. But in that process, people ask me, could you look at my manuscript? Could you help me with this? Could you help me with that? So I started doing it, coaching, but I didn't know it was coaching at the time. You know, you read somebody's manuscript, you say, well, I think maybe your characters might need a little more fleshing out, or I think you've lost the story thread here, or, there's different things. And I saw an ad to read books for a living. So I thought, okay, that's a cool idea. So I checked it out. It was a program from Author Accelerator, and they train book coaches. And I thought it was a really good program, and I saved up my money and I took it. And it was a 15-month course, pretty intensive, with a lot of practicums and work that you had to do and reading to do. And so I was pretty happy with the course, and I was certified as a fiction coach. So that's what I do now, as
Wow.
sort of on the side. I write, do my part-time job, and then do some coaching on the side.
That is fascinating. You're the first one I've really ever met. Usually I talk with editors who are part of a club or a organization that help folks, but you're the first I've met who also does coaching. That's amazing.
There are a lot of coaches out there because with independent publishing, a lot of people are starting to look at coaches to help them with their book because they want to put out their best product.
Mm,
And so I went with the Author Accelerator program because it wasn't it gave some credibility to the putting out your shingle, because there are a lot of people out there that prey on vulnerable authors who really want, they have the book of their heart, and someone comes along and says, I'm a book coach, pay me X number of dollars, and they pay the money and they don't get anything back, or they get poor quality work back. So it prays to do your due diligence, and that's why I went to get certified with the Author Accelerator name, because it's a name that's well respected
hmm.
in the
Do
publishing
you have
industry.
do you have to go back every year and get recertified?
No, they have ongoing courses and stuff that you can take. Some of it is like an extra course that you can take for brushing up. There's a lot of support, like if you were in a critique group or something, you get a lot of moral support. You
Hmm.
can ask questions, or I need help with this. You have a community of other coaches. And then they do offer once a month, like a teaching thing where somebody will present, a workshop, and there's like, business accountability and stuff that help you with your business and any
Oh,
questions you have. So it's a really good support system, but everybody's an independent. It's not like you part of that.
hmm.
Your business is your own. So if
Sure,
you make a mistake or you treat somebody poorly, it's on you totally.
sure. Do they have conferences for you all?
No, they offer classes once a month, like a once a month workshop for an hour.
Hmm.
So
Oh,
uh,
interesting.
any questions you have, support, do you
Hmm.
know anybody that, can help me with comps for this particular kind of book? Or do somebody that does really well with fantasy, and the fantasy isn't my thing.
Sure. What were
So
some of the challenges you faced when you first started coaching?
um, I guess the biggest one, and still is imposter syndrome.
Oh,
You always feel like somebody else knows more than you, and you don't know maybe you're going to fail helping somebody. Maybe what you're offering for advice or feedback or suggestions could be better. So you're always thinking, well, who am I to tell someone else what? It's so subjective. So you have this bit of insecurity about it. That's my biggest
sure.
thing. Some people are really confident in what they do.
Hmm.
And I don't
Hmm.
know.
Yeah. What are the outcomes that you're looking for that make you feel that you've succeeded? Is it when an author gets an agent or a published book or?
It depends. Everybody has their own goals.
Mm,
So some people want to write a memoir for their family. They don't want to be published. And if they're finished with it and they're happy and they feel like that was their best work and you helped them succeed, then that's great. Um, some people want to get published and they want you to really do a deep dive and really help them, make it the best that it could be and really help them polish it up. And if they get a deal, that's great, but it's not the goal. There's no guarantees in this.
hmm.
So and everybody has their own. Some people want to independently publish, and they don't care. They just want to do it because it's on their bucket list. They've always wanted to write a book, and they don't care if they make the bestseller list, so
Sure. Well, that's important. So you get all that up front before you start working with them. You find out what their goals are.
yeah, ask them what their goals are. I mean, because I don't want people to think you're going to get something you're not, I mean, some people have a misunderstanding of the publishing business, how tough it is and
Oh, yes.
how hard.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
it's like, oh, I want to hit the bestseller list and have a movie deal. Well, I'm sorry, I can't help you do that because it's not, it could happen, sure, but not likely. So I don't want to,
Yeah.
so most people pretty much know what they want to do with it.
Oh, that's good. I
You know,
remember
most,
being part of a critique group a couple of years ago where I was the most advanced one and I was working with the newcomers and I would give them my critique and we would meet to go over everything. And then the next week they would come back and I realized they didn't make any changes at all. And so I was having to critique the same chapter and I would tell them again, fix this, this, this. And then after three times, I finally said, okay, I'm out of here. If you're not going to make the changes that I'm suggesting, then you're wasting my time and I need to move on. Have you ever run into something like that where you're giving them
yeah,
suggestions and they just refuse to?
not so much as a coach because people who come for coaching want that feedback.
Okay.
I've had the same thing in critique groups where you just same thing every week.
I know, it's so frustrating.
Some people, I don't know, they don't see it or they want to make all the notes and just keep going and then go back and fix all those things. I don't know.
Well, that's good that you don't experience that so much as a coach.
No, because people are, when they, I don't know, I hate to say it this way, but when you pay for something, you're investing a part of yourself into the process. So you're more likely to listen more objectively to feedback, as long as feedback is presented as a professional.
Yeah,
It's not
that's a good word.
stupid.
Yeah, that's a good word, investing. That's true. They are investing their time, their effort, their story, and their money. And so I could see where that would make quite a difference, and they would want to listen to you more.
Yeah, and you don't. I mean, always in the end, it's not my book; it's your book.
Yeah.
So you have to do what you think is right. I can just present feedback, suggestions for this, that, or the other thing, and it's up to you. If you don't resonate with that, then that's up to you. It's your book.
hmm Now, another thing I was going to ask about is the results and how realistic have the people been regarding their results? Do they usually come in with pretty realistic expectations?
For me, yeah, a lot of it is word of mouth for me. You know, so I don't advertise a lot like on LinkedIn or all these Instagrams. I just don't do it. So people come to me and ask me for help for maybe one specific thing. They want help with developing characters or they want help with this or that, the other thing. So I really don't have that problem as far as expectation. So we kind of like hash it out ahead of time. I mean, we'll do like a free, a Zoom call like this, ask questions back and forth, and see if what they want is something I can help them with. First of all,
Mm,
you know,
okay.
and then we talk. And then if somebody might want sample edits, fine, I'll do a few pages and I'll send it back to you, and then you can make a better decision. I want people to be comfortable. I mean, because they're investing a lot, not only financially, but in their heart. This is like a book maybe they've been working on for a long time, and it's important, and it's part of who they are. And I don't want them to be uncomfortable with that relationship. So it's good
Mm-hmm.
to talk, and if somebody wants some samples, we'll do some samples. But we hash out as many questions ahead of time as we can.
Do you find that one genre tends to be more popular than another, or do you just stick with one genre?
Um, everybody has their skill set, and personally, right now fantasy is very popular,
hmm
but I don't have. I would rather not do fantasy. If you have a fantasy and you're really excited about it, I'd rather steer you to a different coach who excels at writing fantasy. I do better with historical stuff.
Mm.
I like history, so I tend to write historical and I like to do the research. Um, I also like helping new writers because I don't mind explaining all the details of why something works.
Mm.
Some people would rather just, do like a quick developmental edit and bing, bang, boom. And they don't like so everybody, you know what I mean? It's subjective. Somebody has
Mhm.
better skills in this area and someone has better skills in this area. So we try to find, if you want to coach, we try to, find something
Yeah.
that's going to work best for you.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you probably help folks a lot with the research part of writing historical fiction.
Not so much. I mean, I'm not going to do the research for you. I might
Sure. Oh,
say,
yeah.
I'm just wondering about this particular thing because I understand maybe that a horse doesn't go that fast, or something like that. And then could you please check that?
Mm.
You know,
Yeah, if they're bringing up telephones or something and you're
yeah,
thinking,
something
I don't think they
obvious.
had phones back then.
The biggest thing is usually language. And I've done it
Oh.
myself. Like in an earlier book, I used the word okay
Mm.
in a time frame that they weren't using that word. Um, so, you make those mistakes. Some of it's just ignorance, and I didn't know. And so, if I see, usually it's words, that phrasing wasn't used yet, like it might reference something like, I don't know, like a slang term for money or something like that that's not used back then. Um,
So those things will pop out at you because you're so used to reading that.
yeah, so sometimes I miss stuff. I messed up a couple of things, my own stuff, but
That's funny.
yeah,
So
you
you
mess
would coach, so you wouldn't do the research for them, but you might coach them as to how to go about doing it, sending them in the right direction and not just, Googling things.
right, because I mean, I Google a lot of stuff,
Hmm.
but you have to double check things. It's like I wrote one story, a novel. The characters went to this particular town in Colorado, and I did this research on it. The town was here, and then I was double checking it, and the town was here. And then wait a second, then the town was over here, this farther down the river. Then it was over across the river, and it's like, okay, what happened? How we have four different times, different places for this town to be, and it's like, well, one time the settlement was here, and then the settlement burned down, and they moved it over here, and then they, for some other reason, they moved it over here, and so I had to find the right year for the right time the town was there. But
Gotcha.
that's why you have to double check things. So I mean,
Yeah.
I jump off on Google too, but you can double check.
Yeah. You show them, you give them tips on how to go and verify
Mhm.
facts and locations and such that perhaps a new writer may not fully understand.
There's a lot of stuff online, like Facebook groups that are specific to
Yeah.
different things like Civil War, or I talked to some people who were World War I, experts, and they knew a lot about those old planes and stuff like that. And so, if you have some little, it's better to go as close to the source as you can, kind of.
Hmm.
Um,
Yes, Facebook groups have been helpful for me writing suspense. I ask them some police procedure questions.
yes,
Yeah.
we might even be on the same site, cops and writers.
Yes, that is
Yes.
so funny. Yeah, you can get a lot of information from different Facebook groups. There's emergency medical groups. You can ask them
Mhm.
questions, firefighters, cops, all that. That even then you still verify, but it just gives you a better idea of the process and are you on the right track or not, or are you way off base, you know?
Yeah, sometimes even in your own critique group, one person might be an attorney, one person might be a social worker, one person might be a technical writer, and they're really good at, finding commas. But everybody's got a life outside of this. So a lot of people in your group have experience with different things.
That's
You
true.
know?
And have you ever run into someone who kind of lacked the humility that's needed? I mean, I run into so many new writers who don't realize how you have to develop a thick skin, and some of them are a bit arrogant and say, "Oh no, not me. I won't be rejected," that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think I've seen it more like in a critique group. And then,
Mm,
like I said, I don't advertise. I just take clients like word of mouth
mm,
as a sideline. So people that come are coming for specifically because I know stuff.
yeah.
So
And they
being
want to
more
learn.
receptive,
Yeah, they want to learn.
where I think if I was advertising a lot and get a lot of influx of people, it might be a little harder. I've heard stories about people that have had clients that have said no. You just have to say, "Oh, I'm sorry. I don't think that we're the best match, and I'm sorry.
Sure.
I can
Yeah.
suggest someone else, but."
Yeah, that happens. It happens with me with podcast guests. Sometimes we're just not a good match and you have to just part ways.
Mhm.
Well, so tell us about why did you feel drawn to writing historical romance? What is it about that genre that you love?
I think, well, part of it was growing up with a family who my mother loved antiques.
Oh.
And so we had tons of stuff in the house. And this came from here. And this was my great grandmother's who brought it over from Scotland. And this is another piece that came from Germany. And this is another piece. And all this history that came with it. And we used to take vacations and go to like the old Sturbridge Village and different places like that. And so you kind of like, and then I grew up in Vermont, and Vermont has a lot of history with the Revolutionary War, Ethan Allen, and such. There are a
Hmm.
lot of old forts, and my brothers and I used to tromp around the old ruins on different forts. And it's pretty cool. Just like
Yeah.
Crown Point in New York has an old fort, and there's this big parade ground and has a huge rock. And the soldiers from the 1700s that were there carved their names and date in the rock. And it's like, this is so cool. It's
Wow.
like, who are these people? What happened to them? Did they ever get to go home? I don't know. It's kind of like, when they bring up stuff from the Titanic and there's somebody's hair comb or something,
Mhm.
it's like these people all lived and breathed and had families and hopes and dreams. And so I guess that's part of the draw for me for the history. And then my dad, he loved, westerns. He loved old westerns, John Wayne and all that. So we used to see a lot of westerns. So somewhere along the
Oh,
line, the two merged, and that's kind of where I go with it. And
oh, neat. Did you have a teacher who kind of encouraged you to go into writing?
not really. Like I said, I've been trying to write stories since I was a little kid.
Yeah.
I just always did it. And then I don't know, when my kids were little and when they were babies and I would like nurse them in the middle of the night at 2 in the morning, I stopped at back in the day because my kids are like older now. um, you could get harlequins at the
Hmm.
checkout, the little skinny harlequins,
Hmm.
easy peasy romance. And there wasn't anything on TV at 2 in the morning back then because it wasn't like nowadays.
Yeah.
And so I used to read those, and that's kind of where the merging of romance came in.
You thought, oh, I could write something like that.
Exactly. I can do
Right?
this. This is easy, right? Sure. It was. It wasn't. I had a lot of stuff that never saw the light of day.
Sure. Yeah, we all start off thinking, oh, it'll be easy. And then 10, 12 years later, nope, still not easy. Well, so folks, head over to kathyotten.com. That's Otten, Kathy with a Y, Otten with a K, Kathy with a K.
And
And
even more.
and check out her website. It is amazing. She has testimonial there and her books, and then also your coaching packages. Tell us a little bit about those.
Well, I didn't know. It's like I tried to figure out what to do for. So it's flexible.
Sure.
This is like a jump off. Some people, they have an idea, this vague idea. I have this great idea for story, and I want this to happen and that to happen, and we have to do this and that. And it's like, okay, we need to focus that into some kind of structure. So that's where the foundation for a novel comes in. Let's try to come up with a plan, a blueprint that you can work off of instead of having all these ideas which can lead you down a zillion rabbit holes. So I have that. And then a developmental edit where it's like maybe somebody just wants to know, is this going to work? It's all done. Let's see where we are. And I'll go through and I'll look for, like, does the tone change? Does the goals for the characters that were set up in the beginning, are they following through? Is the tension and climax building the way it's supposed? You know what I mean? I look a lot of the structure and character, internal conflict in the characters. And that's more of somebody that's already got finished. So in between that, it's like, let's do the coaching. Let's say, help me write my novel kind of thing. And that's where the coach is like an editor looks at something after it's finished, just like if I did a developmental edit. A coach that's going with you for the long haul is with you through the whole thing. Let's look at some pages. Here's some feedback on those pages. Let's sit down and talk about it in a Zoom call, answer questions. Let's move on to the next chapter. What do you want to accomplish here? And, it's like every step of the way. You're going off track here. Let's try to rein it back in. This is a cool idea. Why don't we, stick a pin in it and save it for another story? That kind of thing. So that's more of like the everyday. It's kind of like a personal trainer who's with you. You have your goals, and the personal trainer is going to keep you on task. You want to work on this muscle group, or you want to work on losing this much weight, and we focus on what your needs are, and that's kind of what coaching is.
I love that. That's a great visual. That's a great analogy to help me understand more what you do. Well, that's wonderful. And so, if you had a writer in front of you who was starting off and maybe he or she wanted to be an indie author and they have a story, what might be some words of advice you would give to this person?
I guess the first thing is, why do you want to write this story? What is it about it that is compelling you to write it? Is there something, that a message that you want to get across? Maybe some experience in your life that, happened and you want to create a story around it to help other people. Everybody has their own why. And I think it's important to hone in on that a little bit in the beginning so that you have something to hold on to when it gets hard. Because it gets hard. Writing is hard. Wasn't it Hemingway that said you sit down at the typewriter and open a vein? I'm not sure it was Hemingway or not. But it's hard. So if you have that core to hold on to, I'm doing this because, I'm doing it for my dad. I'm doing it for, what we had as everybody has their own why. And I think that's the first thing you need to look at, because it gets hard and it's easy just to give up. And so if you have that goal, that tangible internal thing that's driving you, and you can hold on to it like a marathon runner. It's hard.
The intrinsic.
This is the thing that keeps you going. I say marathon. My daughter runs marathons. So
that's funny because I do too. And I always liken it to that, because if you're just doing it, well, for me anyway, if I'm just running a race just to get the medal at the end and, say, I finished a race, I'll quit when it gets tough, like around mile 21. That's it. I'm done. But if I find that there's another reason, I'm raising money for a cause, or I'm helping out a friend, pay her medical bills, I'm raising money for that. When it gets hard at mile 21, I know I can't quit because I'm using it to help somebody. So that keeps me going. So you're right. You have to have the why behind it. And it can't just be, well, because I want to be famous and make a lot of money. Well, the chances of that happening are very slim. So you have to have a more intrinsic reason for going and continuing and finishing the story, because you're right, it gets really hard. And there are days when, nope, you just don't think you can do it. But if you're writing a story of hope that you feel can help someone, or like you said, for a parent or a friend, or, if you just imagine that one person out there who needs to read this story, that does get you up out of your bed and at the keyboard, and it keeps you going.
Yeah. Even when the 10th rewrite isn't working. Still...
Yeah. And you have an editor who's scratching out a bunch of stuff saying, that's not working.
But I worked so hard on this.
Oh, this has been great. Thank you, Kathy, for joining me today. I've learned a lot. And like I said, I've never met a book coach, so this is fascinating. And folks, like I said, head over to kathyotten.com. That's Kathy with a K and a Y, and her last name is spelled OTTEN.com, where you will see more about her books that she's published. You can read some testimonials about her happy clients, and you can look at her various coaching packages that she has. And remember, Kathy's flexible, so don't think that you can't work with her. And Kathy, again, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking time to chat with us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Wow, that was so fun to talk with Kathy Otten about her services as a book coach. I have never met one before, so that was great. So like I said, head over to her website, kathyotten.com, where you can learn more about her and the services that she provides. If you feel you are ready to start to brainstorm your novel, start to work it through, she has different packages to help you. And just remember, it's not easy. It will take some time, some rewrites, and it really does take a thick skin. So hang in there. But folks like Kathy are willing to work with you and give you the encouragement you need to keep going on your writing journey. So be encouraged. And thanks so much for listening. Until next time, God bless.